Why, hello there, beautiful people. It is I, Nelson Bullock, the man formerly known as Kaz Cray, and welcome to Nelson Bullock Gaming. And as you guys can tell, it's about that time of year. It's that time of year where I am just fed up with NCAA Football 14 and I'm fed up with Madden. So we're finally going to make the switch back over to some retro gaming here on the channel, and we're going to be playing a game that I've always talked down on for the most part as far as the PS2 port is concerned, NCAA Football 07. Now, what is my big stink about this game? Well, I absolutely loathe that return camera that's in this game. And in all the editions that were on PS2 after, which was NCAA 08 to NCAA 11, you're able to turn off the return camera. You can't turn it off in this game, and that's why I've always strayed away from this game. But, spoiler alert, I'm also doing a Madden 07 franchise. So, I think it's only right that I do this Dynasty in NCAA Football 07, that way I can port the draft classes over to Madden 07. So I'm going to be going with the University of Buffalo, and this is a pretty interesting team in the sense that they're one of the worst teams in college football at the time. And I am playing with actual rosters with names on it. Shout out to Playbook Gamer. I actually bought one of his memory cards, and he has rosters for NCAA 02, I believe at the earliest, and as late as NCAA 11. It might be 01 actually, but anyways, Drew Willy, the sophomore, 6'3", 213, has a pretty good arm. His accuracy is the best on the team, but still not great, will be the starter. The backups are going to be Tony Paoli and Stuart Samsel, who are both seniors, so their senior years, they're not going to be starting, unfortunately. And now we have a really intriguing name here in James Starks. And yes, this is the James Starks that played in the NFL for the Packers, and I think he played for a couple other teams if I remember correctly. He started off as a quarterback at Buffalo, but I'm going to move him over to running back because that's where he ended up playing. I'm also going to move Naaman Roosevelt as well. He played receiver at Buffalo, so we're going to move him over there. And I'm also going to move fullback Chris Sharon over to end. He was initially a linebacker at Buffalo, but he ended up moving to fullback, and I just think he's a better fit at line for us. So starting running back is going to be Jared Patterson. Chris McDuffie will also get some carries as well. Then we have Stephen King, who might also get into the mix, and then a few younger guys, including James Starks, who I just moved over. Akea Bekwe is going to be the starting fullback. He's a senior, 74 overall, not very fast. He's more of a blocker than anything. And waiting in the wings is going to be Ike Nduka, who is more of a utility fullback who can be used in the run game and the passing game as well. But he's going to have to wait a year, as Bekwe will be the starter going into the first year of this dynasty. Receiving-wise, we have a couple of young guys here. We have Brett Hamlin, who is the highest overall receiver on the team, tied with Terrence Bro and Evan Wallace. Wallace is a senior. He has 92 speed, and he'll probably be receiver number 1 for the team. We have Watson, Jackson, Larmond, Roosevelt, Rice, and Hag. I feel like I'm going to redshirt a lot of the freshmen there. Chad Upshaw is the highest overall player on the offense at 87 overall. He might end up going to the draft, we'll have to see, but he is a redshirt senior, so we'll only get 1 year of him. Brian Kizabeth will be the backup, and then we have Jesse Rack and Robert Yelu to round out the tight end group. Our offensive line is kind of pathetic, though. Jerry Wessinger is a redshirt senior at 72 overall at right tackle. John Bergio will be the starting left tackle. He's a junior, and he's 70 overall. Then we have John Geddes at left guard, as well as Travis Coughlin. One of those guys will be playing right guard for us, however. And again, our O-line just isn't very good. Jamie Richard is probably our best offensive lineman. He's a 76 overall junior, so we'll get 2 years out of him at least. Looking at the defensive side, Chris Sharon will be starting at left end, across from Andre Smith, who's going to be the starting right end. Sharon is a sophomore, well, redshirt sophomore to be exact, and Andre Smith is a redshirt junior who's 74 overall. So now you can see why I moved Sharon over to the defensive side. We just don't have a lot of strength defensively as a whole, but especially at end. At D-tackle, we have Mark Abraham starting. He is a junior. And then Ronald Hilaire will be starting right next to him as a sophomore. Labano Hakanjin is also somebody who will be pretty well in the rotation at D-tackle. I don't know who's actually going to start next to Abraham between Hilaire and Hakanjin, but we'll have to see. At linebacker, we have Ramon Guzman, who's an 80 overall. Then Jeff Bablavi. Both of these guys, unfortunately, are seniors, as is James Van, so we're not going to get much out of these guys outside of this first year. And the rest of our linebackers on the outside aren't very good, so we're definitely going to have to recruit outside linebacker, both during in-season recruiting and off-season. And Tom Drews is the true freshman, 70 overall middle linebacker. That's somebody I can work with, though, and he's going to be starting there as the highest overall guy on the team. 82 tackling for him. And his speed is pretty solid considering how bad the rest of the team is. We have Irvin and Callahan backing him up. At corner, everybody's pretty equal, but they all are kind of mid, as Andre Evans is highest overall guy at 72 overall, 90 speed as well. And nobody can really tackle in the secondary outside of Newton, as you're going to see. And it's really a matter of who's going to be second, third, fourth, and fifth on the team, as these guys are all 70 overall, so... On the defensive side, we have Jesse Emez, who is a junior, 78 overall, 72 awareness, so he'll be pretty solid. And our best defensive player is Kareem Byrom, who is a redshirt junior. He's 5'9", 200 pounds, and 78 awareness. He is a pretty damn good defender, definitely the best one we have on the team. 74 tackling, could be a bit better, but still is decent. We have Mario Henry waiting in the wings when Byrom is gone, and then Alex Pierre will round things out. Gary McGroarty will be our kicker. He's a redshirt sophomore, 76 overall, and he has a pretty strong leg, 92 kick power, 82 kick accuracy. I'm pretty good with the stick in this game, so I'm not too worried about his accuracy. And then we have Ben Woods as the punter. He's a true junior, 72 overall, and his kick power is at an 86, kick accuracy is at 82. I mean, it's just going to be a skill issue if I can't kick properly in this game. Looking at the schedule for year one, we have Temple to open up the season. Then we play 3 straight road games: Bowling Green, Northern Illinois, and number 7 Auburn. We have a bye in week 5. Then we have Ball State, Miami of Ohio, then Boston College, both road games, Kent State. Then we play at Akron, at Wisconsin, and then we finish out the season against Central Michigan. So as far as redshirting players go, I'm not going to make this like a real strict rule or anything like that, but I am going to try to mainly redshirt any freshmen who I don't plan on having a role for. And that's just so I can get all 4 years out of them with them having an opportunity to contribute to the team. I'm not going to really redshirt any sophomores, juniors, and seniors, although I'm more likely to redshirt guys who are sophomores or juniors who are transfers or who are, JUCO guys. But I'm mainly going to focus my redshirts on the freshmen just so they can kind of develop and whatnot. But now we go into in-season recruiting, which is one of my favorite parts of the PS2 games. You get to pick 12 guys to give scholarships to, and you just kind of see what they're interested in, drop certain amount of points on each of them. Now, to make things a little bit tougher for me in this dynasty, for the first few years, I'm going to put 2 restrictions on myself. Number 1, I'm only allowed to recruit 3-star players at best during in-season recruiting, and I'm only allowed to recruit players in off-season recruiting who match the team's prestige. So if I have a 1-star prestige, once the off-season hits, I can only go after 1-star players. But honestly, you don't go any lower than 3 stars in in-season recruiting, unfortunately. So it's hard to put that restriction on there. And I'm not just going to cut a bunch of guys. I'm going to welcome these guys in if we end up having them signed with us. Restriction number 2 for the first few years, I'm only going to recruit players who are from New York or from states that border New York, which actually isn't too bad because obviously New Jersey and Pennsylvania both border New York, and those are both kind of hotbeds when it comes to college football, especially back in the day. And I also can recruit from Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Vermont. And as far as Canada goes, this is going to be a little bit tough because I'm not really too familiar with Canada, but I'm only going to recruit players who are from cities that are in the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. So players from Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, Ottawa, those are all fair game. Players from like Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, I won't be able to go after. So now we look at the top 25 to open up the series, and Ohio State is number 1, led by Troy Smith. Texas, who was the defending champion at this point, is number 2. We got Notre Dame, USC, LSU, Florida. Auburn, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Louisville, Miami. The Noles, yes sir. Penn State, Michigan, Cal, Georgia, Iowa, Tennessee, Arizona State, Nebraska, Virginia Tech, Texas Tech, Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia Tech. It's just crazy to see how many of those teams are relevant nowadays and how many are a lot better than they were in this game. As far as we're concerned, however, we are 115th out of 119. One of the worst teams in college football. So we got a lot of building to do here. And looking at the top 5 Heisman candidates, we have Brady Quinn, who is a senior this year at Notre Dame. Adrian Peterson, of course, the legend at running back from Oklahoma. He's a junior. We have Troy Smith, the quarterback for Ohio State, ended up playing for the Ravens IRL. And we have Chris Leak. We don't talk about him. But after him, we have Brian Brom, the quarterback for Louisville. He was no Teddy Bridgewater or Lamar Jackson, but he was pretty good at Louisville. As we look at the All-Americans now, you're going to see a lot of notable names here. Obviously, Quinn and Peterson are there. Marshawn Lynch is there. There's Megatron. Zach Miller as well. Joe Thomas was a tackle there at Wisconsin. Manny Ramirez, Justin Blaylock. Gaines Adams, God rest his soul. Justin Harrell. Patrick Willis is there. Brandon Seiler as well. Damian Hughes, Antoine Cason, Laurent Landry. John Carlson's there for some reason. I guess they had to switch his position to make Notre Dame's roster correct. But Mason Crosby and Daniel Sepulveda, who ended up having pretty good NFL careers, are there as well. Well, Crosby did. I don't know about Sepulveda, but those are 2 guys that made it to the NFL. Second team All-Americans include Troy Smith, Michael Bush, Kenny Irons. There's Jeff Samardzija, who ended up playing in the MLB. Probably should have played in the NFL, but I guess he was happier playing baseball. Levi Brown's there. Matthew Spaeth is there. Jake Long. Then on defense, you have Lawrence Jackson, Quentin Moses. A few notable names here on the second team as well. Brandon Mobane's there. Paul Posluszny. Eric Weddle was playing corner for Utah. Brandon Merriweather's there as well. Alex Cerna. Ted Ginn Jr. is there as well for Ohio State as the second kick returner. Looking at the All-MAC team, Bears fans, please shield your eyes. There is Luke Getsy. Quarterback for Akron, he's a first-team All-MAC guy. There's Garrett Wolfe, who had an okay career in the NFL. Ryan Robinson is another guy who played in the NFL for a bit. So did Doug Free and Corey Lichtensteiger. So a few notable names here at very least. Not a lot. It is the MAC, so you can't really expect too much here. But there's some pretty decent players here who had decent careers. Usama Young, a lot of Saints fans will recognize that name. Looking at the second team, as we didn't have anybody on the first team, John Greco's there. Not a lot of Buffalo players were all that good back in the day, to say the very least. I mean, you know. There's Reggie Corner for Akron, though. And then Ontario Sneed. Some people might know about him. Most people probably don't. We did have one, though, in Ben Woods, the punter, being the second team All-MAC player there. And in week 1, we take on Temple. Now, as much as I was complaining about it being 115 out of 119, Temple was the 119th best team in college football as far as the ratings go. So, in other words, they were the worst team. And they don't have a whole lot of talent, but they have a pretty good running back in Tim Brown, who is pretty fast, and we don't have a lot of speed on our defense, so that's a little worrisome. I'm not going to lie to you. They have a 76 fullback. They have some speed at receiver here in Bruce Francis, the sophomore, so they're not completely bereft of speed like we are on offense and defense. So this ain't going to be an easy game. That's all I'm going to say. I know that they're technically worse than us, though I will give them the excuse that they were an independent in 2006. Well, it started in 2005 after they got kicked out of the Big East. And they ended up joining the MAC for a few years, but they're not in the MAC here. And because of that, I guess they lost out on a lot of players that ended up going to other schools. Of course, you have Penn State and Pitt in Pennsylvania. And there's a notable name there, Terrence Knighton, who played for the Jags for a few years. Man, I couldn't stand his ass. But he ended up having a pretty solid NFL career. We'll have to see what happens with him in this series. But again, Temple's not a very talented team, but then again, neither are we. So I don't really have a lot to say as far as that's concerned. But anyways, looking at the rest of their defense, they have some speed defensively as well. Temple definitely has more speed than we do, like on average, I feel like. And they have a better secondary than us. So Drew Willy is going to have to get it together. Hopefully he's able to play well in this game against Temple. Obviously, he's a young guy as a sophomore starter over 2 seniors. So we believe in him. We'll have to see. So one thing I also want to pitch as far as this series goes is I want to know if you guys would be interested in watching any of these games that we have on the schedule. Now, obviously, I'm not just going to watch any game, but, you know, games that have 2 top 25 teams. As you're going to see up here, we have Tennessee taking on Cal, number 15 versus number 18. You have Notre Dame taking on Georgia Tech, number 3 versus number 25. And to close out week 1, we have Florida State taking on Miami, which is a really, really pivotal matchup, as you're going to see in just a moment. But let me know in the comment section if you guys want to see highlights of those games that we can plug in at halftime or something like that, to add a little more entertainment to the series and add a little bit more immersion. Especially with me doing a Madden 07 franchise, I definitely think adding immersion to both of these series would be something that would be pretty awesome to do. But let me know what you guys think. Another thing I'm going to ask from you guys is if you guys would like to create a player. I have 2 different options for you guys, one of which you can do right now, the other you're going to have to wait till after the offseason to do. But as far as creating players, you can create prospects heading into the offseason to be a part of the recruiting class. If you guys would like to create a player there, as far as that immersion goes, like watching other games and whatnot, feel free to do so down below. I'm going to have a template set out for you guys. But if you guys are adamant about wanting to play for Buffalo, then all you have to do is just wait for the offseason, and then you guys can claim players. It'll be first come, first serve. And you would do that by joining the Discord. The link to my Discord server is going to be in the description as always. But I'm excited to get this series started for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy all the retro content that's going to come you guys' way. I'm definitely going to play this series through when the new EA college football game comes out, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with that as well. But hopefully you guys enjoy this series and the Madden 07 series that's incoming as well. But anyways, make sure you guys hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit the dislike button if you disliked it for some reason. And we're going to keep this mofo rolling here on Nelson Bullock Gaming. If you want to see more from the channel, check out the playlist and the video in front of you.